We were talking about all sorts of things. The helicopter company said yes, but then they told me how much, so that was a non-starter.
How much, just by interest?
It was going to be about. It also would have required us to evacuate all of the houses 50 metres either side of the flight path. I said before, there are a few risks that have been taken in this project. There's only one or two companies in Australia that have got the ability to actually build these things properly. I don't accept cost in time. We've got 40 or 50 people on site now in order to get the project done on time. Generally, my answer is no, I want it done this way. So I just Googled around and I found a picture of a giant window that was as big as the windows that we had that didn't have a beam. And I said, well, they can do it, so can we. Get rid of the beam.
There's probably more concrete in that house than most houses in Sydney or Australia for that matter, to be honest.
It obviously must be like really strong, must be trafficable at least by people.
Yeah. Super thick, yeah.
Yeah. You literally could drive a car over it. Well, one of Andrew's first decisions was to actually bring a crane on site to 4 architects. I said, look, I'll pay you each for 1 day of work. Here's my brief, just come back to me. One of them flat out said, no, that's not the way that we work. And I was like, that's cool. See you later.
Welcome to the Future Spaces podcast. I'm Michael Shaw, and I'd like to thank Enviz for sponsoring the show. If you would also like to support us and stay up to date, please subscribe. Let's dive in. Welcome to both of you to being here on the podcast today. Thanks for coming in. So obviously I want to do a bit of an introduction for everyone here. So we've got Peter Paddon here, who's the owner of this amazing Forest Lodge home in Sydney. We're actually friends from way back from our motor racing career.
We are.
So that's pretty exciting.
Frenemies.
Frenemies, yeah, exactly. We challenged each other as champions, and then since I've left, you're still now the reigning champion.
We had a few tussles on track.
Well done. So keen to hear your journey and story through this. And welcome to Andrew, who's the client-side project manager from August Construction. And so we're the first time meeting today, so I'm keen to hear your story and your journey on this project as well.
Yeah, excellent.
So, to start, I'd just like to pass it over to you, Peter, and give us a bit of a story behind and your original vision behind this project.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually live on the block next door to this block, which is about half the land size of this particular block. And, I moved into the house, which was fine at the time, but since I moved into the house I'm in at the moment, my family has almost doubled in size. Got a new partner with 5 kids. So we just needed somewhere bigger, and there was this big block of land next door with a really old house on it, and I thought that'd be a fantastic development opportunity. Love the area that I live in, love the outlook out the back. The property next door to ours has actually got a really spectacular view of one of Sydney's original aqueducts that was built right back in 1880. And it's got this really cool sort of level triangular block with the aqueduct on one side and forest around the other side. And so I just thought, you could build something really cool here, like a big house with bedrooms for all the kids, but lots of glass at the back that would take in that amazing view. So that was the vision, was to build a big family home that the kids could grow up in, and that would take in that spectacular view out the back.
Yeah, and I've been there luckily, and it is an amazing view of that aqueduct. How did you find living next to the project while it's being built? Yeah,
it's been awesome. The funny thing is that whole cul-de-sac is being developed. A couple of years ago, there was a duplex put in 2 doors over. At the moment, there's 2 other duplexes being built in the same cul-de-sac. So out of the 12 lots on the cul-de-sac, I think 10 of them have been developed or are being developed. So there's a lot of construction around. So I've been used to construction noise, and it's just kind of cool that one of the contributors to that noise is my own project. Awesome to be able to have it next door. I go over there almost every day. I'm taking a really active part in the project. It's my first build, and really enjoying the learning process. I'm learning so much about everything. It's just phenomenal. It's amazing how much of a learning curve there is when you've never done development before. I'm annoying the hell out of these guys by coming around and looking at things and asking questions and generally being a pest. But it's really cool being able to just do that and have it right there.
Yeah, cool. And so just back to the original vision, it was obviously you love the area, you know the area, you've lived there for a while, so you knew it fit all your family needs, but it was just that your family had grown larger and then you're wanting to give everyone their own space and go to that dream home. Is that to the kind of the high level vision?
Yeah, exactly right. You know, I wanted to build a forever home. And I wanted everything about it to be the way that I wanted it. And in the inner west of Sydney, first of all, there's no big level blocks. They're rare as hen's teeth. So loved the area, loved inner west, couldn't find anything remotely close to something that was going to suit my needs. I've got a daughter with special needs who is in a wheelchair, so having a level block was very important. And you need to have a ground floor bathroom, you need to have a bunch of stuff set up, you can't have split level, all those sort of things. So trying to find somewhere that I could just buy and move into is impossible because it just doesn't exist. I spoke to a bunch of real estate agents and they all said the same thing, like there's just nothing in the area. So I thought, why not just build it? And the block was there, it was right next door. I hassled the owner 5 or 6 times, and I was talking to the real estate agent that knew the owner, and he didn't want to sell it to me originally, but he had another property up for auction up the road that passed in, and the day it passed in I rang him up and I said, right, make another offer for next door, and I got that one through the keeper. So it was good. Persistence paid off. I knew what I wanted and I got it, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Awesome. Okay. And so tell me the story of how you met Andrew, or how you engaged Andrew to help you through this project.
So Andrew was actually originally recommended by the builder. So it started off with the builder, and my original idea was to have a basement in this property. And I was talking to the architect about that. We're actually in a flood zone and the water table is not far below ground level. So the architect said, look, go and have a chat to Peter Lloyd, who's building a basement at the moment in Mossman, and it's down at water level, almost at ground level, and just have a chat about what's involved. And he was building this enormous, like 12-car, 16-car basement at the time, and he had coffer dam built, basically to hold all the water back, and pumps going constantly. And I met him on site, and he was just saying, you can do it, but this is what you need to do. And I was shocked at the infrastructure required to make that happen. And essentially, by putting a basement in the house, you're building a boat, because the whole thing floats. All the shoring and everything, and not having built anything before, I took one look at that and just thought, absolutely no way. But I had an awesome chat with the builder and looked at his references, looked at some other stuff that he'd done. And it's just absolute best of the best in terms of the quality, and certainly he'd built a lot of big houses out of concrete, and this was going to be a largely concrete house. And so just ticked all the boxes. I did meet a couple of other builders, but always just came back to Pete. And Pete said, this is the best project manager he knows. So why not? And I figured it was good to put a team together where everyone liked working with everyone else and got on well. And I think from running businesses, I know how important it is when you're putting a team together to make sure that everything is gelling like that. And so that's the builder and project manager get on really well. We all sort of get on, and the project has run really well.
Okay, cool. So Peter from Allscope Building. You already were connections or friends or worked with him before, right. And then suggested the engagement to help with the construction process.
Yeah, we've probably known Pete for sort of 15 odd years, and he's been building amazing concrete structures for feels like 80 years, but he's probably been doing it for 40 odd years, and he's fantastic. Yeah, he'd be probably the best in Sydney. He could be the best in Australia, really. Yeah.
Okay, too easy.
Yeah, really good.
And give me a bit of your background, I suppose, and a bit about August Construction, just so
so my background is in commercial building, and then for sort of about 10 years, and then I've gone into high-end luxury houses for the last 10 years. Yeah. So it's kind of been nice to bring that commercial experience into the residential market, which is probably a little bit different to how some people build residential houses, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I think Pete and I and the team all work really well, is because I've got the ability to understand what needs to be done to build something quickly. So, and having a tool like this is exactly what we need in order to make decisions. And it's really all about making decisions so the guys on the ground know exactly what they're doing. And that's pretty much where all the speed comes down to, really. So I think that's one of the most enjoyable things for Pete, to see that, you know, there's 30, 40, 50 guys on site every day, and they all know what they're doing, and they're all doing the right thing, and they're all doing a high quality job. And that's all down to planning, and this tool is, you know, all part of how to make a decision. So
that's really interesting to hear, because I wanted to deep dive into that, because the original idea and problem that we were solving with this tool is people can't understand what an unbuilt property or read floor plans.
Definitely,
but we had mainly actually designed it more for selling property off the plan.
Right. Okay.
And that's now transitioned more into helping design. But then there's the in-between of then actually helping on the construction process. And so it's great to hear firsthand that you're getting that kind of feedback or value from that as well. So keen to deep dive into that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I could talk about it all day. That's easy. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And we sort of also get into the planning, which is sort of includes the development approval, and then the design, and then the construction phase. You know, there's kind of 3 steps, right? And really, for something like this, it's great from day one to be able to show the clients exactly what it's going to look like at the end. Because oftentimes we'll have, if we're ever, the last 20 years, we've always just used 2D plans, right? What I've always built with. But it's interesting that most of those projects, it's not until we finish the whole house and it's all clean that the client's like, oh yeah, that's what we're getting. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like they're working with us for years and years, but until we were finishing, they weren't really seeing the final result.
Yes.
So this is kind of bringing that forward, which means that any potential either bad decisions or quicker decisions that could be made, we're using this tool to make those, which is so invaluable. Yeah.
So that obviously provides a lot of value to Pete to understand what he's getting and stuff. How did that flow on to when the contractors that you were talking to, in terms of their understanding of what they're doing, and also that communication piece between the two? Did you find that was, or what were the pros for it, and also potentially is any sort of things that also raised?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. We've worked with some architects who have been in the game for 40 or 50 years, and they've drawn 2D, and they'll still walk into a room and be like, oh, I didn't realise it was quite like this. Do you know what I mean? So these are guys with huge amounts of experience, and there's something, or didn't realise the light was going to come in that way, or they didn't realise the window was going to be kind of like that high, because at the end of the day it's quite hard to read a 2D plan and then understand exactly what it's going to be like, either 3D or then eventually tangible. So I think that it's valuable then for the guys on site who, even though they've done it for decades, reading 2D plans, you're showing them something, and not only can they actually see what it's going to look like, but they also get to see some of the other trades and how they impact what they're doing as well. So they can kind of see the final result, which makes them understand, oh, that's kind of, that's why I'm putting this wall here, or that's why the window's there because it lines up with the joinery or something like that. And I think having them more involved and being able to see that much clearer is just really invaluable. Yeah, it's great.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, now I want Peter, you to take us on a bit of a journey. So
yeah, definitely.
I want you to act like we're on site now, and you're going to take us through from the front door and take us through and talk to the main points that you either really are proud of, or that you're really excited by to experience, or just talk us through some of the design decisions you also made.
Yeah, definitely. So many design decisions went into this house. So I'll come around to the front, come in through the front door. So I guess I got a lot of inspiration from looking at different property online. So, I basically, sat on Domain many an evening with a glass of wine and said, that's a great looking foyer, and that's a great looking atrium, and that's a great looking, different features. And I kind of went to the architect and said, I want all of this. And the architect's like, you can't have all of that. You can't have everything that you want. But we kind of narrowed it down to some select features that I really, really liked. We had some constraints, as I said, in terms of single level and no split levels. But there's also some really cool features that I have been able to put into the property that I wanted. And also I think we've taken a few risks as well. There's a lot of fairly bold design decisions that have taken place. And For me, I'm not a very artistic person, but I'm someone that really knows what I like when I see it. And so, you know, for me to just draw something from a blank piece of paper, that's not me. But having something like this where I can look at it and go, oh yeah, that's great, that's terrible, but I love that. Get rid of that, fix that, and you know, it's been such a good design tool from that perspective. But coming into the foyer, this is one of the actually fairly late decisions, was to have this whole wall here done in the same granite as the kitchen island bench. So that is going to read, and you can just see it in the distance, the kitchen island bench out down the back there.
Yes, I can. Yeah, I actually hadn't put two and two together before.
Yeah, so that's reading like the granite, you know, that we selected, and we fell in love with this giant piece of granite out at the stonemason when Lauren and I went out there, and we just saw it and went, that's what we want. And it's such a tactile piece of granite. It's got this brushed surface to it, which feels amazing, and you just want to rub your hands over it because it's really cool. So that was really cool. And then the other thing that I've always wanted, you know, I saw this giant sort of 2-story, 6-meter concrete wall and it's going to have wall washing lights that sort of just highlight the natural, you know, contours of the concrete. And so yeah, I love that idea of a sort of a 2-story concrete wall. It's just a really dramatic entryway.
I imagine that would have been fun to manage the off-form contractor.
Definitely, yeah. Well, that's why Pete was so great, because he's, you know, he's built a couple of those and he just knows how to do it. He wakes up in the morning and that's what he just loves doing, you know. Yeah.
Oh, so that's his specialty.
Yeah, all the concrete is his specialty. Yeah, absolutely. It's very good.
There's a stack of off-form in this house, so having that as is pretty key. And then sort of stepping through, we've got this amazing stairway. We went through several iterations of the stairs, and I wasn't happy with the suspended stairway, and it was a very minimalist stairway that we started off with. And I just said to the architect, look, I just want it to be rock solid when kids are running up and down, and I don't want it to vibrate or move or feel flimsy in any way. So the architect said, great, we'll just build it out of concrete. And yeah, the builder was really impressed with that as an idea. He said, yeah, that's going to be really easy. So we've ended up with this, you know, these kind of suspended cantilevered wooden treads coming out the side of a concrete stairway.
Oh, they're timber coming out of the concrete.
Yeah, so
that's
steel insert, timber treads coming out of the concrete. And we've actually lit up, so between all the treads we've got embedded lights in the concrete going up the stairway.
Okay.
So the stairway was an absolute work of art in concrete, which was really cool.
Has that now been poured? Because when I did a site visit, it was
all poured, all built, and it just looks incredible.
Amazing. Yeah, we've just started to sort of put it together, and these blocks of timber that just cantilever off the edge kind of will look like they're really floating, to be honest, but there's a lot of engineering going in behind it, but at the end of the day it'll sort of look like half of that thing's just floating in the air, which will be amazing.
That's great. I think this part of your house is honestly the feature part, like the high ceilings, this internal garden, this stairway. It's
just the wow factor as soon as you walk through the front door, right? Like the first thing that you see, and I guess that the concept was, it's impressive at the start with the giant concrete wall, and then you come out and, you know, you can't help but notice there's a giant garden inside the house. And, you know, we spoke to the landscapers about how big the tree could be inside the atrium, and they said, yeah, we can put a, you know, proper 6-metre tree in there if you want. I said, yeah, I want.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna put a fairly substantial tree inside the house. And so when you come around and look at the atrium, it's obviously, you know, there's lots of low-level planting sort of around the base of the stairs and the landscaping. The landscapers really understood the brief from the tool, because we were able to show them, you know, just a basic garden. They went away and then came back with, okay, we're going to have ferns, we're going to have stones, and we're going to have this large feature tree out the back, which is going to come up between the stairs and the second level. So that was their concept, which we then put back into the model just to see how that all kind of worked. And having it here in the model means that, you know, I've got so much more confidence that this is the right layout for the garden. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's just just the right amount.
Yeah.
So this feature here, the double height batten ceilings.
Talk to me about the skylight as well. That's an impressive.
So this is something that kind of went around in circles a few times. This skylight. So the original concept, one of the potential features of the house, we were going to have the entire roof that would open up.
Oh.
So it's a lot smaller than the original skylight was going to be. My concern was always about the amount of heat that was going to come through it.
Yeah.
So if you had, if you think about like a 6 metre by 6 metre square of glass, so basically no roof.
Yeah.
And all of that being able to slide on like a rail system across the roof. The practicalities and the engineering was just a bit too much, but we have still retained this. I think it's a 6.5 metre by 2.8 metre skylight. Which
That's
is
massive.
Massive.
That's still that's
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
And that's all installed now?
It's all installed.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah. I mean, you could drive a tank across it. The glass is like this.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
how it obviously must be really strong it must be trafficable at least by people.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 centimetres thick, so it's
Wow.
super thick, yeah.
Yeah. You literally could drive a car over it.
Yeah, wow, that's impressive.
It's pretty full.
That would have been a big crane day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. A
Yeah.
lot of big crane days. Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Well, one of Andrew's first decisions was to actually bring a crane on site. So we, the very early days, the crane guys were like, "Yeah, no, there's way too many trees in the street. You can't get a crane up there. It's just not going to happen."
Yeah.
And then I think the guys were, "Hang on, a crane is going to be super useful for this site."
Yeah.
So. We had another look at it, got a different crane guy, and the second crane guy said, "Yeah, we can do that. I think just."
Okay.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, we knew the neighbours, which is my other house.
Yes. Okay.
And so they kind of used all of that front lawn to kind of get the cantilevered crane boom across and get everything up, and somehow kind of Tetrised it into place.
It's another benefit of owning next door, I suppose.
One less neighbour to complain about stuff. So.
And what have the flow-on benefits of that been for you?
Yeah, they've been huge. I mean, building a house of this scale, if you didn't have that crane, you might be having a portable crane come to site, 50 or 60 times. But we've now got a crane on site every day that we use probably 6 to 8 hours every day. And so that just speeds up bringing in huge pieces of glass or taking something small like rubbish out. And so, the cost benefits are easy because it's much cheaper, not only for the crane, but then the material handling just with manpower and the like is cheaper because they're not having to bring everything to the front of the street or anything like that. So, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, for sure.
The guys were using the skylight as crane access to, deliver goods inside the house, so scaffolding and that sort of stuff, all that. Building materials just dropped straight down through the skylight and came straight into the middle of the house. So.
That's perfect, John, because otherwise you would have previously had to have a landing platform.
That's
for
right.
level 2.
Exactly.
So how good is that? Multi-use.
It was fantastic.
So that was really good. So kind of continuing the journey through the house. So you come past the central atrium, and then you're presented with this, 6 metre ceiling, 6 metre wall of glass, which just as you get closer to it, it just gets bigger and bigger. And this is west facing. So one of the cool things about this model, it accurately models where the sun is going to be, and that's really important when you've got west facing glass in Sydney in summer. I was terrified that I was going to spend all this money building a house that was uninhabitable in summer because of the amount of sun that was going to come in through this sort of west facing triangle of glass. So we did a couple of things. We, first of all, modelled exactly where it was going to be. Then I went and spoke to the glass guy, and I said, right, here's my problem. What can we do? And it was really cool because, he showed me the different levels of glass, from relatively cost-effective glass through to here is, Barangaroo level, skyscraper glass. And the difference was amazing. So he actually got an infrared heat lamp, turned that on, and was holding different bits of glass up in front of it, so I could feel, and you can feel it on your face. Like, cheap glass, you put it in front of an infrared heat lamp and it doesn't really do very much.
Yeah.
And then he also got another pane of like Barangaroo glass, and it just instantly cuts the heat
Yeah.
out completely.
I imagine the difference is like single glazed, double glazed, and triple glazed. Is that kind of the difference, or are there actually?
It's more the coating.
Coating.
It's the
Interesting.
coating on the glass and the tint. So yes, it's all double glazed, argon filled. You know, and it's VLAM Hush. So it's because there's an aircraft flight path about 2 kilometres to the west. So it's reasonably far away, but you know we wanted to reduce the noise.
Sure.
So we've got so noise protection and thermal protection built into the film on the glass. So there's 2 different films, and yeah, it just performs amazingly well. And so does the skylight. So, you know, I went and stood under the skylight. It was a 35-degree day. It was boiling hot, and just stood straight under the skylight, looking up, you know, with my sunnies on, staring at the sun. And it was just, it wasn't cold, but it was fine.
Yeah, that's great.
It was blocking about 85% of the heat, which is. You know,
and so did your architect help you through that journey and those process of some of those material finishes and selections?
Yeah, so yes and no. So I've got a bit of free time at the moment, and I was thinking, this is going to be a fantastic learning opportunity. So yeah, I went out and met so many people. You know, I went out and met the joiner. I went to the joinery workshop and walked around. And, okay, how do you build it? How do you laminate stuff? How does all that work? And went out to the glass guy. And I'm like, okay, show me what you've done and how does it all work? And so I've just been trying to absorb as much as I can throughout the project. And I think it's valuable because Andrew was talking about decision making, and I absolutely want to build the house on time and have it finished on time. And so I don't want to be going back and second guessing decisions and undoing things that have been done. So I want to get everything right. So to me, to get a decision right, you've got to get the right information, and to get the right information is about talking to people and seeing what it's going to look like when it's in place. So bringing all of that together so that the right decision can be made. And it's made once and you move on. So, yeah.
I like the logic, but so now's your next career going to be a builder?
Well, it's funny. Like I've spoken to a few people now that I've kind of almost done the first one. I would actually be really keen to do it again. I feel like I've kind of understand a lot of the potential pitfalls. The second time around, I think I'd be a lot more efficient. There's a lot less of a learning curve, I think, on the second one than the first one. There's probably still a lot to learn, but there's definitely still a lot to learn. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, would be easier. Yeah. So
I'll deep dive into more of those lessons later. But what's the first one that springs to mind?
Oh, look, the whole DA process and understanding all of that. Like that's we've got 40 or 50 people on site now in order to get the project done on time, in order to save a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The DA project, we wasted months.
Really? Yeah.
Because, this wasn't documented, or that wasn't documented, or council needed to see this, or, just understanding that process and being able to put the right pressure at the right time to get the right results. Like that's where you get massive savings in time is in the DA. Not necessarily, trying to squeeze blood out of a stone in the in the project plan. Yeah. I mean, you can still save a bit of time, but that's probably the biggest lesson for me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a developer background, and my family's been in development for years, and that's a constant thread about people complaining about DA approval in Sydney. So,
it's crazy.
And I imagine you would have experienced the same.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah. I mean, just understanding what the councils want, or it's not clear about what you can and can't do because either the rules are a bit subjective or whatever. So I think, time-wise is always tricky to know how long that's going to take for sure. Yeah.
Okay, keep going with the tour.
So we come into this sort of lounge room area, big TV up on the wall. I like to watch my Formula One, so that's the Formula One spot. Architect did a fantastic job of coming up with this picture wall. So we've got a lot of pictures, and we just wanted to. It's a very modern home, and the danger was turning it into a bit of a museum, like a contemporary museum kind of feel. So we wanted it to feel a little bit more kind of homey, and so this concept of just having this giant picture wall with a couple of nice sort of art lights at the top to just have a few sort of scattered photos up there was really cool. And then coming through into the kitchen, straight away, the big feature here is this amazing atrium space with the light, the glass, and these enormous metal louvers. So this was an architectural decision that I looked at it and thought straight away, that is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's very functional in that it's provides a huge amount of shade from the sun, which I thought was quite important because, again, I didn't want to run the risk of the whole place being way too hot and not being able to do anything about it.
Because you're going to be spending a lot of time in this particular area.
Well,
here.
yeah, 100%. Like this is the kitchen dining room, right? So this space needs to be perfect.
The heart of the home.
Yeah. And then the other big concern was, all right, so we've got these giant metal blades. How much of the view are they going to block? So being able to go into the model and then just change that to open the blades up and go, oh, there's the view. That's what it looks like when they're open at 90 degrees, and that's what it looks like when they're shut. And so you can straight away see you've got the view. And it's not in this model, but the aqueduct is right there. Like it's right across that aspect. And so we could see exactly where it was going to be.
Yeah.
So this, again, it's just the whole concept of the house is just those layers of sort of getting closer and closer to this amazing view out the back, but going on an amazing journey through the house to get there.
Yeah.
And there are little things that we changed as a result of having this model. So for instance, this above the kitchen is the master bedroom. Mm-hmm. The master bedroom originally came out to be in line with this this bulkhead. Whoops, I've gone outside. I'll go back into the kitchen. So there's a bulkhead here, and
exit that side.
Yeah. So upstairs is the master bedroom.
Yeah.
That master bedroom originally came out to this line.
Yeah. Okay.
And by pushing it back that extra 1.5 meters and making this whole window glass, what that did is it translated all the way back here into, you start to see more of the second floor. You can see from back here that that's a 2-story void. And as you come closer and closer, it massively opened up the sky.
Yeah.
And so what do people do when they come and visit? Everyone comes around, plonks their bag down and sits at the kitchen island bench while you pour a glass of wine or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is where all of the guests are going to sit when they come around to the house. And that's what they're going to be able to see.
Yeah, rather than that floor extending out.
Exactly.
That's a great change.
So, and it goes even further back than that. If I go all the way back to the entrance of the house, when we originally had this designed, just go around the corner, we had a little seat that was a rectangle, not an L shape.
Okay.
And this little rectangle seat ended with a bulkhead that came out, and the bulkhead came out on top of this seat. The problem with that is it blocked off that view around the corner. So we chopped that whole corner out and opened it up and turned it into an L-shaped seat, which means that as you come through, you've instantly got a sight line basically from here all the way out to the window next to the kitchen.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so being able to see the difference that made, it just opened the house up so much to be able to do that. Doesn't look like much, but because of the way that the angles work, when you come in through the front door, just having that little bit less wall makes a huge difference.
So through that design process, that was the original design, which we had even the original model where it was the architectural model, and you would have then seen those sites, those line of sights, and then made those decisions. Like, what did that look like between the two of you in terms of how, Pete, I'm assuming you were communicating that to Andrew and then the builder, or what stage, or this was this back
this
at
is
the
all
architecture?
all pre-built.
Pre-built, okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to, any change, we haven't moved a single wall since we started building. I don't think.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
So no significant changes. We've made a couple of changes to things like finishes and tiles and that sort of thing. But in terms of major changes to moving walls or windows or anything like that, there haven't been any. And the reason is because I spent so long walking around the house in VR and in the model. Yeah, I knew what I was going to get.
Yeah.
And so I'd already done all of that planning and I could see it. And so, yeah, for that reason, the flow of the project's been really good.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's literally what the tool's for. So.
Yeah.
Go back to the kitchen dining area.
Yeah.
Because let's just touch on these blades for a little bit longer, because I think they are like one of the, well, there's many feature points in this home, but they're definitely one of the most engineering feature points in this home. Because obviously I was part of the journey when you were making this decision about the angles, and we helped you through this design process.
Yeah.
And then you were showing me some of the photos of the actual blades being manufactured, the big stainless steel and the motors that run them. Maybe talk me through your understanding, your experience there, and then I'd be really keen to hear, Andrew, your experience with how you're planning on installing them if they haven't already been installed and things like that.
Almost.
Yeah, so I said before there are a few risks that have been taken in this project. Building 6 metre operable steel blades that are going to live next to a chemical swimming pool and basically be right next to the dining table and the kitchen of the house that are going to be stared at the whole time was probably the biggest risk. And just the engineering required to build them has, it's been way more than I ever would have anticipated. There's only 1 or 2 companies in Australia apparently that have got the ability to actually build these things properly.
Yeah.
Having flown out to Albury and seen them being manufactured and seeing the work that's gone into the design of them, it's been amazing. The risk with the blades was they were going to be too big, too heavy, too much, and too thick, and the danger was that they would look like bars on a prison cell. There was just going to be too much going on, especially with all of the lights as well. So the danger is that the space is all of a sudden going to look too cluttered and busy. So being able to just model this and go, okay, so exactly how much of the view are the blades going to block out, and you open them up, and all of a sudden it actually works really well because there's so much glass. There's an amazing amount of glass that if you didn't have something there of interest, it would feel a little bit like living in a fishbowl.
100%, yeah.
So actually I think that having them there is exactly the right amount. And we made some decisions like making them two-tone, so the outside is dark and the inside is very similar to the colour of the walls inside the house. Okay. So as they turn, you can see more of the dark and the light depending on where you are in the house. So you can see different aspects of them. And the other thing about the blades is they look absolutely amazing from outside the house. So if I go back to the doll's house, the view from outside is really, really cool.
Yeah.
What those blades look like, and how they kind of relate to the surroundings of the house. It gives it this pretty impressive look that I think is really cool.
No, I agree. So, the L-shaped pool with this big palm tree, and what type of tree is this feature tree in the courtyard? Yeah,
so I mentioned before my fear of the house being uninhabitable in the heat. So I just go back to say the barbecue area, and so. One of the key things was talking to the landscapers about a tree. Now, the original block of land had a giant tree in that location, but it was a weed, and it was at the wrong height. So we've actually raised ground level about 1.3 metres, 1.4 metres from where it was before to make the whole block perfectly level.
Yeah.
So the old tree had to go. We've put in an ornamental pear tree.
Okay.
And I wanted it, because the kids are, the kids are going to live in this house for probably the next decade. So I didn't want to be waiting 5-10 years for a tree to grow and then have all the kids move out as soon as the tree was big enough. But what we've done here, we've actually modelled where the sun is behind this tree, because that's where the sun is in real life.
Nice.
So you can see the tree is tall enough to provide shade to the backyard in summer at a certain height, to figure out exactly what that looks like. And we can have a little chair and tables and things out here in the back so that you can actually go outside in summer, and you've got an outdoor setting out there. So then the challenge was, okay, what's the biggest tree that we can get in? How do we get it in?
Okay.
And we were talking about all sorts of things, from helicopters to driving semi-trailers over the concrete slab. Pete, the builder, didn't really want us to drive anything over the slab because, just the weight. I mean, the tree alone is 4.5 tons, let alone all of the other bits and pieces attached to it. Council wouldn't allow us to put a big crane out in the back. The helicopter company said yes, but then they told me how much, so that was a non-starter.
How much, just by interest?
It was going to be about 50 grand.
Wow.
And it also would have required us to evacuate all of the houses 50 metres either side of the flight path. So there would have been about 20 houses that we would have had to ask to leave while we helicoptered a tree in. So we did look at it. It was a kind of a funny exercise, because I don't think at any point we were really serious about doing it, but it's just interesting to ask the question. Could have been done, but
could have been done.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's fine.
Turned out to be a lot easier just to reinforce the concrete slab. So the slab was specifically, extra footings were poured right at the start of the project. We poured some extra footings, knowing that at some point we were going to need to drive a tree over the top of it. So having the model, knowing we needed a tree, knowing exactly how big the tree needed to be from the model, then allowed us at the start of the project to pour a bigger concrete pad to then drive the tree over the slab when it was poured and put it in place.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Comes even into like engineering decisions, what you're doing with the slab.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, the sequencing. So the tree was brought in before the walls were built, so that you could actually drive the crane straight in without the walls being there. So without knowing that you needed to get a crane into the house, you would have just built the whole thing, and then at the end of the day, you wouldn't have been able to get such a big tree in there. But understanding the sequence, because we knew what needed to be built, meant that it could all be done in the right time.
That's great. That's great. And so how did that, is that more yourself kind of working through that and then you're letting Peter know, or like it was between the three of you?
Yeah, I think between all of us and the engineer as well, right?
And the engineer, exactly,
What Peter's saying before about having the right project team is just so important. So you can have an easy conversation with all of the stakeholders together, and Pete included, to say, can we do this, can we do that, and come up with the most efficient and cost-effective way to create something like that. So it worked really well.
And just while we're talking about installation kind of complexity, run me through the process of installing the blades.
The blades, yeah, that's right. Well, the blades are about 2 weeks away from going in, so I'll be able to tell you more in 3 weeks, but there's been a lot of research similar to the tree in terms of it going in. So we need 2 different types of cranes to put the blades in, just based on their weight and their location. So they'll be lifted over sort of essentially 1.5 houses and come in over the top of the roof of this house and get lifted down near the pool, and then they get installed that way. So we'll put all the blades in first, and then all the motors and the like get attached to it after the blades are dropped in.
Okay. Yeah, because I have done a site tour, and obviously going onto that top roof, which is all concrete, which I want to talk to you about that as another thing. But how you've allowed those slots in the concrete slab for them to slide in.
Yes, that's right. A lot of thought went into what was the cutout for the concrete in order to not only just get the blade in, but also to maintain it later if you needed to get the blade out, or it's important to sort of think about the whole sort of project history of what that could look like, so that it's all fully maintained later as well. And
now we're looking at the roof. What's the story behind the full concrete roof. It's very impressive, and I imagine it was very helpful in a construction process because there's a big storage area for you, which is not normal for a lot of construction sites. But,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know,
impressive.
Sydney generally is just pretty tricky to build because there's not a lot of land, and if there is land, people want to put a building on 99% of it. So having a space like that was really good. We've spent months and months of storing various gear up there, and then we've just recently moved all of that and waterproofed it and about to put some solar panels on there. So I went through I would say, fairly long decision process in terms of whether it should be half concrete or a little bit of metal, and what are the cost benefits of both. But sort of, I think, weighing up the cost benefits with the durability and then the cost of waterproofing it at the end was definitely the right call to make it go all concrete for sure.
Yeah. Noise was a factor. Longevity was a factor. I have lived in houses that have had leaking roofs in the past. That was a factor. And probably the biggest factor was actually time saving. It didn't take that long to make an all concrete roof, and in fact it was less time to do that than to have, you know, most of it metal and a bit of it concrete.
Yeah.
Because it was still, you know, had to do all of the formwork for the concrete part and then build a metal roof that sat on top of the concrete roof. So learning that and the intricacies of, you know, project management around putting a roof that size on a building. Concrete was all poured in a day. The formwork obviously took a long time to get ready. I think I don't regret for a second going full concrete with the roof. Knowing that it's going to be able to last forever. I'm not going to have any issues with waterproofing or any of that because I can see how it's been built. And the plan basically is to cover the majority of it in solar panels. So
interesting. Okay, that makes sense. I was going to say helipad or tennis court up there.
There's a fair bit of room up there.
We could put a little tennis court up there, maybe a little golf simulator or something like that.
That'd be nice. You know, hit a few golf balls off the roof. You certainly could. But you probably could land a helicopter on there. It's strong enough too.
Definitely could take that.
And I imagine from a construction point of view that was very handy because when I went there you were using it for storage. Because you've got the crane there as well, like it would just be amazing to be able to for materials handling.
Absolutely, yeah. We're getting trucks right in on the driveway, the crane's picking it up, putting it on the roof, and then it's just there for the exact time that we need those materials. So it was perfect storage. And I think, you know, to Pete's point earlier, like a metal roof is typically faster and cheaper to build, but you sort of have to look at each problem based on the exact custom nature of this house or any house that we're building and say, well, is it, even though the typical metal roof is cheaper, is that definitely the case because we've already got concrete elements, so we're already up there, we're already doing that trade anyway. So we're sort of just extrapolating one trade a little bit more than we should have before, so why bring in another 3 or 4 trades, which is what would have been needed for a metal roof. And as a result, Pete said, you know, it was poured in a day rather than it would have actually taken longer to do a metal roof, which people think is faster and cheaper, but based on this house it wasn't. So it's important to look at all those solutions. No,
that's great that you've looked at it more holistically rather than just specifically the direct cost of the actual object or that part of the scope kind of thing.
Definitely.
I guess the other thing as well is, you know, time is money, and anything that saves time is going to save cost. So you know, that's something that I've been very clear with Andrew right from the get-go is I don't draw a distinction between money saved in terms of time or money saved in terms of cheaper materials. Money saved is money saved. So if you can spend 30% more on a better piece of kit that's going to save 2 weeks of building time, then great, do it, because you know, any time that you can save on the build is, you know, there's a capital cost, there's capital tied up in the project, and you know, there's interest rates that are being paid for different things and opportunity costs for other investments. So if you can save money on a build and free up the capital, then do it.
I agree. Okay, let's go back on the tour because we've now just done only the main atrium and the kitchen and dining. So take us to maybe the pool room, or you're in control of the journey.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll go back to the kitchen because this is kind of the heart of the home. So this is where the architect did an amazing job in terms of the livability of the house. So when I put the original architectural job out to tender, I went to a handful of architects and got them all to do a concept of, what are they going to build, and Katie just did an amazing job of building or designing a house that people can actually live in. Ticked all of the boxes in terms of requirements and did some really cool things. So for instance, if we just go the other side of the kitchen, there's a really large, generous butler's pantry. It's got all of the things that you would expect in a big house. There's the swimming pool area out the back, but right next to the swimming pool area, there's what we're calling the pool bathroom.
Oh, that's great.
So, you come straight out of the spa.
That's very practical.
Hop out of the spa. Yep, you've had a swim, you've had a spa, and you come straight in through the back door and you've got a bathroom right there. Yeah. There's a giant space in here, so we've decided to close this in and turn this all into a giant cupboard. So that's going to be full of towels and pool noodles and all the pool toys and water pistols and all that sort of stuff for the kids. So it's the perfect location for that. And then the other side of the kitchen, something that I wanted was I wanted what I call a kitchen office. Okay. And the kitchen office, I've got a very good friend of mine, Phil, who loves to cook. And he, right from the very first time that I knew him, he had a big computer in his kitchen for all of his recipes and all of his, just basically right there in the kitchen. If you're Googling a recipe or something, and so his kitchen is the center of his life. I thought that is a really cool thing. Okay. But it also turned into the admin office. And you've got all of the charging ports, and you've got all the papers, and you've got your bills that you need to pay, and you've got, all of the kids, stick their, homework and stuff there. So the idea of the kitchen office was to have all of the admin stuff that would normally live kind of on the kitchen island bench somewhere, all that sort of stuff has now got a home. And it means that when the kids come home from school, we can go, right, get your homework out, get it ready, and we can keep an eye on them while we're getting dinner ready. Yep. They're in there just doing their homework. It's right there. If we've one of the kids is getting help from a tutor or something like that, then that's a place where all of that can happen. Yeah. And it just takes all that clutter out of the kitchen as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
When Lauren's working from home, there's an office for her as well. It's quite quiet and it's kind of away from everything. So that was what this room was all about. Just that.
No, I like it. So it will be used for, like you said, like just that kind of general living kind of utility kind of office, but then also for the kids' homework in their office, and then Lauren's office as well. It's a multi-purpose kind of admin
office,
kind of room.
House admin.
House admin. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, that's right. Shopping lists and all that sort of stuff.
A lot of house admin with 5 kids. Yeah.
There's quite a lot. Speaking of 5 kids means a big laundry.
Yeah.
So we didn't skimp on the laundry. 2 giant Bosch washing machines and dryers, and a steam cabinet.
Yeah, wow. So that's awesome.
And inside this cupboard is a laundry chute which connects straight up to the linen cupboard, and so the kids can chuck all their dirty laundry.
That's really practical.
The other thing that we wanted to do was we want all the kids to have their own shelf with their own basket. Yeah. So when the clothes get done, then they've got their own, just like they do at school. They've got a tote tray at school. Well, they can have their own laundry basket here. So chuck all the clothes in there, and they're responsible for taking it up to their own bedrooms. And that's the plan. I don't know if it's going to work like that, but you can always dream.
Yeah, I like that you've got a plan. We'll check back in a few months and see if it's actually come to fruition.
Yeah.
And just talk to me about what's a steam cupboard like?
So steam cupboard, there's different manufacturers have got different takes on what a steam cupboard does, but essentially it refreshes clothes. It kind of almost replaces a dry cleaner. So if you have just worn a suit and it's a bit crumpled because you've been sitting in a car and it's crumpled up the back, put it on a coat hanger, stick it in a steam cupboard overnight, and it will make those creases just fall out of it. So you don't necessarily need to take it straight away to a dry cleaner. So it's kind of like refreshing. It's great for, I've heard, apparently it's great for the ladies' dresses. So Lauren's very, very excited about the steam cupboard. I'm probably never going to use it. I might use it for the race suit. I don't know, but yeah. So I think it's going to be a cool thing. So, but yeah, that's what that is.
Again, I'll report back in a few months if it's any good.
But 2 washing machines, 2 dryers apparently is definitely something that is going to get used.
Yeah, it's awesome. You can alternate loads and at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And then that leads us into the rumpus room. And so the idea of this was basically just a completely separate and separable living area for the kids or for the grown-ups, depending on who's sort of colonised the other part of the house.
Yeah.
So, if I was having a meeting with some business associates, I might want to do that, somewhere like this and just shut the doors and this is kind of a, private area for that. Or if the kids have got friends around and they're being noisy or whatever, we can just go into the rumpus room, put a movie on, have a game of pool, etc. Great space for parties. And again, this whole house was designed around entertaining and having parties, and everything opens up, all the doors open up. So this is just a really cool sort of party space.
Have you already bought the pool table?
I have not yet bought the pool table. There's been a fair amount of procrastination time gone into researching pool tables.
Okay.
So
you bought the wine fridge though.
Have bought the wine fridge. Yeah,
priorities. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Got the wine fridge. There's a little bar area in here as well, and this leads out into the barbecue and pizza area.
Oh, nice.
So. Yeah.
Have you ever owned a pizza oven before?
Yes, got a small pizza oven at the moment, which is not nearly big enough.
Yeah.
We've got a little family ritual. Every Friday night's pizza night. Kids make their own pizzas, and we chuck them in and make
great.
pizzas on a Friday night.
Great. So this will be the Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night pizza night.
Pizza night.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep. So it's just a nice area that connects to the backyard. So. Again, like the idea in summertime, you've got the shade from the tree, you've got a table out there, you've got people in here having a game of pool. You're sort of right in the middle of things. And again, this whole concept came from a good mate of mine who just put his barbecue right in the middle of his backyard instead of tucked away in a corner. Yeah. So he's built a big island bench with a barbecue in it, a bar on the other side, and put a pergola thing over the top of it, right in the middle of the barbecue. So whenever you go around there to have a barbecue,
he's in the middle.
He's turning the meat over, but he's also in the middle of everyone, and it's just such a social place to be instead of being tucked out in a corner.
That makes sense.
It's not completely in the middle, but it's also in a sort of a relatively central spot. So
are you known as a good barbecue?
I do.
Cooking?
I do from time to time turn a bit of meat and definitely. And then this leads down into another little sort of zone, the sunken seating area with a fireplace. Again, just a great little location in the house to kind of be, and again, lots of different people you might want to be away from it all. And so this is another place that you can be in the house. You could come down here with a newspaper on a Sunday morning, or you can come down here with a glass of wine on a Friday night. And again, the rest of the house can be chaos. This could be a nice little serene retreat.
That's really nice. Yeah, I really like the outdoor living areas that you've architected here. It's really nice. On that point, like you touched on it before, I'd be keen to hear that story of how you engaged or how you found your architect, because that was quite interesting. How you said you put it out to a bit of a competition, and maybe talk me through that a little bit more.
Yeah, so big decision, right? And I was looking at looking at different fee proposals from architects, and they're charging anywhere from sort of 5 to 8% of the value of a house. So it's a fairly substantial invoice. In my business, if I'm bidding for a piece of work that large, I'm putting a fair bit of time and effort into a proposal in order to win that work. So it's all right. So how do you normally get this from an architect? And most of the architects are like, here's my fee proposal and here's the work that I've done and that's it. And I was like, well, I kind of want more than that. Okay. So I said to 4 architects, I said, look, I'll pay you each for 1 day of work, right? And you can do as much work as you like, but I'll pay you for a day. And here's my brief. You've got to 1 day of your hourly rate, and the hourly rates are anything from $200 to $300 an hour for 8 hours. Spend a day on this, or spend as long as you like, and just come back to me with your idea. And this is what I want. Here's a dodgy sketch that I've done in Microsoft Visio. So I drew it. Here's a triangular block, and here's the house, and everything is to scale. So I had the survey plans done. I had all of the bedrooms drawn in. I had a big 4-car garage, which is something that I wanted originally. And I had most of the requirements sketched out, but just really badly organised.
Yeah.
And I gave that to all the architects, and I said, all right, just come back to me. One of them flat out said, no, that's not the way that we work. And I was like, that's cool. See you later.
Off the list, yeah.
And 3 of them came back. One of them did an amazing design, a really highly regarded architect in Sydney. And he was the one that I kind of wanted to win, because I'd looked at a bunch of the stuff, and I was like, yeah, this guy's cool. Amazing design. Nowhere near the brief, completely, it was just architecturally amazing, but not livable in any way, shape or form. I was like, how can no one can live in this house? It looks really cool, but it's not what I want. Yeah. One of them came back, and it was pretty good. Katie came back, and it just nailed the livability. Every single thing that I wanted in the brief was there, plus some extra ideas, like the pool bathroom and separate rumpus room, and all that kind of better flow. And I was like, yes, this is. I had the trust then that the design of the house was going to be sort of compatible with the idea of building a forever home, and not an architectural masterpiece with livability second.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was completely comfortable with that from day one, and it turned out to be the right call, because the house ticks all the boxes.
That's awesome. Yeah, because that is such a challenge when you're doing such a big project and an amazing project like this, that it becomes too architectural and not livable. So that's interesting that you had those 2 submissions, and that you went for the more livable one rather than.
And I mean, it ended up costing me sort of 2 weeks and $8,000.
2 weeks. Yeah. Okay.
But I think in terms of the end result, given the size of the project, you could have easily done it for less than that. But for a high-end house, it's multi-million-dollar development, $8,000 in the grand scheme of things. I mean, that's that's the pool table.
Yeah.
So I think money well spent.
No, I think the ROI on that is definitely stacks up.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's a really interesting idea. I think I'm going to emulate that in the future. And so when you did this competition, what was the kind of submissions that they were giving back? Was it floor plan sketches? Can you maybe talk me through that process?
So one of them, which I really liked, one of them was just a hand-drawn sketch. And I thought that was actually a really good approach, because I didn't want something super polished. It was more about the idea and the process than it was about a polished result. So that was that. One of them was a full 3D model fly-through, like a fully rendered, fly-through AVI of here is the house.
Wow.
So I spent a fair bit of time and effort, way more than a day, putting it all together.
Wow.
One of them was 2D floor plans with, I think there was a single static 3D shot of that. It was pretty basic, it was just black and white, wireframe kind of thing. So it was that. It was reasonably wide range.
That is a wide range. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then just while we are talking about the architects, then how was the communication between you and the architect? Through the process, and potentially using Enviz, or just what their method of communication was with you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I mean, I've run an IT business for 22 years, and I've done project management before. I've managed large projects. I've managed big teams. I've managed things that are very complicated according to a deadline and a fixed cost. And in the IT world, a lot of what we do is a commodity type service. It's highly competitive, and it's very professionally managed. I think it was a bit of an eye-opener, the building industry in general. And I don't want to sort of cast any aspersions.
No, I think that's pretty accurate. That's all right.
But in terms of understanding scope and deliverables and those kind of things. I've got no experience in the construction industry, so I was coming at this from an IT project management perspective, the way that I would manage a project. And I think there's a, let me put it this way, there's a big opportunity for improvement in the building industry in general, I think.
I agree.
And just the way that projects are managed and scoped and priced. And those kind of things. And I understand that there are dependencies. And look, anyone can point to an IT project where a software system is quoted at $10 million and ends up costing $80 million, right? So it definitely happens in every industry. So it was a learning experience for me, understanding how all that worked and what the contingencies were and what the dependencies were and time frames and those kind of things. So yeah, I think having an architect, a project manager, and a builder that you can trust to provide good advice, I think for a first timer is absolutely key. Once you've done it a couple of times, I think you can dodge a few bullets as well. So yeah, it's helpful.
Okay, cool. And what was the main form of communication between the three of you? Or sorry, I suppose it's nearly the four of you in terms of the client, builder, client-side project manager and architect. How were you mainly communicating? Through the drawings? Did they have their own 3D model? Run me through kind of how that kind of communication piece went between the four of you. Yeah,
so I think it was a combination of things. So Andrew, you set up a Dropbox pretty quickly.
Yeah, so I think sharing the information is really key, right? So I think everyone needs to see it. They need to see it live. And I think that's really important, rather than either sharing little bits or anything like that. So open communication, really important.
Yeah.
There's so many decisions to be made that I think written communication is also really valuable. So everything's normally backed up in an email and it's confirmed and it's updated in the drawings so that everyone knows what they're building from. And also what we find is really helpful is a lot of face-to-face communication as well. So Pete and I catch up every week. We walk through the whole site and we chat about any of the issues that have come up in that week or how something's been resolved if it's come up. So, or if there's more decisions to be made in terms of finishes or anything like that, we'll go through that. So that constant, open and regular communication is really key. And the earlier that you can start that process in the job life cycle, the better it is. So, as a project manager, if we can get in from day one and provide some cost benefit and some design help and that kind of stuff, we find that quite valuable as well. And I think, having Pete next door is actually it probably for most or for some builders, it might sound like a horrible situation that you've got the client, but actually it's the best thing ever, because there are so many decisions to be made, and the fact that Pete's there constantly walking around and we can grab him and say, can you come and have a look at this, or are you okay with this, means that when we finish or as we've been building, we haven't really changed anything at all, because we've always kept him up to date, or we've made sure that he's across anything that we're about to do, so that there's just no rework. There's been virtually zero rework on the whole job, which has been amazing.
That's amazing. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of communication, the other thing that I've done a lot of is I've probably taken in the region of 3,000 screenshots from this and cut and paste those on top of PDF architectural plans with little arrows and annotations going, no, this door needs to open this way, or just little things. Like if I go into the rumpus room, so we originally had off-form concrete under the TV. So, okay, where's the soundbar and the subwoofer going in this room? It's okay, well, we can put speakers in the ceiling, or we can where can we put them? It's okay, well, what about, can we put anything over here in this joinery? So then there's the joinery diagram, and okay, so where's it all going to fit? And well, we've got cupboards, doors cut out here, so what we didn't want to do is build all the joinery and then have the IT guys rock up with the subwoofers. Where are we going to put them, guys? Yeah. So right from the sign off of the joinery diagrams, I'm looking at the joinery, and I'm looking at the electrical specs, and I'm Googling, you know, what are the dimensions of the sound bar that they're putting in, and the subwoofer, and which one is it, and is it going to be oriented vertically or horizontally, and where's it going to go? So then we send the subwoofer specs off to the joiners and go, how's this going to fit? So we ended up not doing that in off form across the bottom, and that's now cabinetry, and that's now where the subwoofer and you know, speakers are going to go. And the fact that that's all now completely integrated with the design means that we can properly insulate it with foam, and we can build the perfect enclosure for sound into the base of the TV. And yeah, we're going to have some speakers in the ceiling behind as well. But yeah, there have been hundreds of little, so I've got the joinery diagram in a PDF. And I think the first time I got that joinery diagram, I put 140 annotations in it, just going, yeah, move that left and move this shelf and replace that drawer with a cupboard and and just probably took me 2 weeks to go through it at that level of detail, because every day I'd finish work and I've got a spare hour. Okay, now I'm going to do Lexi's bedroom. Okay, so Lexi's going to sit at the desk. How many drawers has she got? How many cupboards has she got? Where's that all going to work? Where are the PowerPoints going to go? Is there going to be a cable cut out in the built-in desk? Where's that going to be? Just really think about all of those things at that level of detail. I'd go up into her bedroom, which we haven't done yet, but you know, I'd go up into her bedroom, and I'd sit here in the model, and I'd be like, okay, so there's the view, right? There's a desk there, there's a cupboard there. How many drawers are there? I'd go and get my tape measure, and I'd measure how deep the drawer was, and I'd go, no, that's not deep enough. Like that's, you know, make that drawer deeper. And you know, I'd sit there at my desk at my office and go, how deep's my drawer? My drawer's terrible. I wanted something deeper than that. So, yeah, having the model and being able to visualize things at that level of detail, you just make one round of changes, and then you know you make a couple of small rounds after that. But yeah, the first round was like 140 changes. The next round was like 3.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing that you've gone to that level of detail in each room and just spent the time, and really cool to hear how you're using the tech as well in terms of taking the screenshots and then matching that with the floor plan to then be able to communicate that. That's really cool. Yeah,
because I can take a screenshot straight out of this and have done. And I'll take a screenshot and I'll zoom in and I'll go, okay, so see how these drawers abut this wall? Like, are they going to scrape along the wall? Like, how are we preventing that from happening? Or, you know, where's the cable cutout going to go? Or, you know, those kind of things. Which direction is the door opening, so that when the door opens, you can actually walk past the bed? So we move the door to the other side, and you know, those kind of things. Just make everything, work better.
That makes sense. Yeah, I'll show you a quick feature as well that we're building in as well. I'd show it onto that, but if I go to your project, because you're using this, you're obviously using the screen capture.
Snip.
Yeah. So the cool thing about that feature in Apple is that you can also then do markups.
Yep.
So what we're doing is that you can then have the markup tool, which is built in to our app and this app, so that you can then actually then do the annotations with like rulers on the iPad, and actually like start drawing out to the angle of the architecture. And then like start annotating on here all those designs. And then actually the next step of this is that we're going to actually integrate AI into Enviz. And so when you do those annotations, you'll be able to talk to the Enviz AI, and it will actually then change the render to your annotation.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like move that couch back.
Exactly.
30 centimeters.
So it won't be changing the model, but it'll be changing the image.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, cool.
So anyway, that's to come. Okay. Let's keep going with the tour. If you can just do let's finish up the upstairs, and then I really want to get you into the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, cool. Okay. All right. So I'll go back to the top of the stairs. Actually, that's probably a good place to start. All right. So we've basically done the downstairs of the house. So we've come up to the top floor, and the idea was to have the kids' wing on one side and the adults' wing on the other side. So the kids' wing is separated by what I should have made a drawbridge, but is now just a bridge.
And through that. Come on, don't skip over that.
well, yeah. There's a little bridge that goes over the entryway.
Yeah.
If we had a drawbridge, we could have pulled that up and locked all the kids over into their side of the house. But no. So Jake is the biggest kid and has the biggest bedroom at the front of the house. So yeah, all of the kids' bedrooms, the idea was we've got 2 boys and 2 girls upstairs and we've got Charlotte downstairs. Mm-hmm. So the 2 boys upstairs both share a bathroom. They've each got their own sink, and then there's a toilet and a shower in between those 2 bedrooms. Mm-hmm. And then we go through the other side, which again pops us back out into the atrium area. So we've basically just done a loop around that side. And then we've got the 2 girls' bedrooms left and right. And in between those 2 bedrooms, there's also a shared girls' bathroom where they each got their own sink and a toilet and shower. So the idea is, the girls have got a bathroom, the boys have got a bathroom. The 4 kids are upstairs on that side of the house.
That's very practical, and also I can see that they've all got built-ins to the cupboards, but also they've got an area to study, so their own little office, and then, like you said, access to their own kind of bathroom. Even though it's shared, but very practical in the sense of their own sink, but then the actual toilet and the shower have their own door as well. Yeah,
and we wanted to make it fair as well. So 3 of the bedrooms are exactly the same square meterage. They've all got roughly the same amount of hanging space. The exception is Jake's room. He's got a bigger bedroom, but then the quid pro quo is that he's going to have to store more stuff, and if they've got shared toys and that sort of thing, then they'll go in Jake's room. And plus he's probably going to live in the house the least amount of time because he's the oldest. So, and then here we've got a fairly substantial linen cupboard where the left-hand side of the cupboard is the laundry chute. So you can open that up and all dirty laundry goes straight down into that nice laundry that we've got downstairs.
That's great.
So yeah, that's the kids area. And then we come around to the adults side of the house. So I predominantly work from home. So it was important to me to have a decent office with all of the things. I'm doing a lot of remote Zoom calls. I'm working a lot of different things. So I wanted to have a really nice environment for myself, obviously, to work somewhere that I actually enjoy working, but also a space that doubles as a guest room because we do have guests staying over. So this is a sofa bed that folds out into a full queen size bed, and then this room has got a little kitchenette, and it's also got an ensuite, so that when we've got guests, it's got wardrobe space, it's got the bed. It's got the ensuite and the kitchenette.
That's perfect. That's going to double up as that guest room as well.
Yeah.
And I can obviously see up there all your trophies from all your Radical Australia championships.
We have had a few discussions about the trophy cabinet. Again, one of them.
Reinforce them because there's so many and they're so heavy.
We kind of worked out that I've got about 400 kilograms of trophy. So
400 kilograms.
Yeah, there's a fair bit. So some of those trophies are solid. So maybe not quite 400 kilos, but there's a fair bit of potential.
You've been winning too much.
I've
been out of the category too long.
That's it. You've been working too hard.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. That's awesome.
A
lot of memories there.
Lots of memories. And then little things in here like lockable filing cabinets so that, company documents and, as being a company director, there's a lot of documentation, things that need to be stored securely. So, having the facility to do all of that here on site is pretty cool. So that's the office.
It's a great space.
And then coming out into the master. Look, we wanted a fair bit of wardrobe space. So the joinery that's gone into this space is pretty amazing. We've got a nice big concrete. This is supposed to be concrete. It's sort of rendered here as marble, but that's another off-form wall. Okay. And then we've got these giant sort of wardrobe areas.
So it's 3 bays.
3 bays.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So lots of wardrobe space.
Have you already decided who's where, or it's still a mix?
Yeah, so
Pete gets
so
the smallest cupboard
we've
and
divided
Lauren
it up.
gets the
So
rest
this nook here is mine. This nook here is Lauren's. And this nook here is Lauren's. But that's cool because I've basically got a few shirts and some golf gear. So, I've got less stuff. But no, like there's so much more wardrobe space in here than we've got and than we could probably ever use. So that's going to be really cool.
Great.
And then again, in terms of sort of wow factor, we wanted to I guess have this really cool space where. Yeah, some nice features to it. A giant backlit mirror that kind of, is floating there on the wall, looking out through this cluster of lights, which I think is going to look amazing. The inspiration for these lights came from the old Flying Fish restaurant in Piermont.
Okay, tell me about that.
So I remember going to that restaurant and sitting up on the balcony level, and they had this amazing cluster of lights sort of over the dining area. And looking out sort of over Sydney Harbour, and it was just the most spectacular view. And I just remember looking at those lights at the time going, that's really cool. Like, I've not seen that exact thing before. So I wanted to kind of replicate that, which is what this is.
Oh, that's really cool.
Apparently it's really easy to do, isn't it, Andrew?
Super easy. Yeah.
Talk me through that. What's the challenges? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, Pete sort of came to us with this idea that this is the pendant that he wanted, and Pete did a really good job of like sourcing the bulbs, but then we had to just integrate it with the ceiling, making sure that they all worked individually in the right space. So we sort of get quite involved with the design about the height of them and the randomness, and then of course where does all the components go that actually make the lights work, and do they fit in the ceiling space and all that kind of stuff. So there's 100 bulbs there, and they'll all be more or less individually put in the right spot to create that effect. So yeah, it's going to be a good installation, but a lot of planning has gone into it, a lot of back and forth, but it's going to be amazing once it's done for sure. Yeah, really cool.
It looks for both areas as well. It's like spectacular for you looking down, but then spectacular looking up in that dining room. Run me through your vision of what's like, because right now it's been rendered with some like see-through kind of curtains, so there's a bit of privacy but not, but like is there also like
blockouts as well? So dual curtains, we've got the sheer and the blockout. So and all of that is linked to a full home automation system, so control for everywhere, for everything, with iPads to control the house, so and apps and all that. So if it can be automated in this house, it pretty much is. The only thing that we haven't automated is the giant metal blades. And the reason they're not automated is there's actually a crushing risk. There is so much torque used to turn those blades that it could be quite dangerous if someone was trapped between a blade and the building when it was operating.
Good point.
So they're manual and line of sight only. So there's a keyed switch, which requires a key to operate down on ground level with full visibility of the. Fortunately there's plenty of glass there, so you can see exactly what's going on. To operate those blades.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's cool. Keep going with the bedroom.
So that's the bedroom basically, and then we're coming around into the master ensuite, which. So coming around the corner, out of the master bedroom into the master ensuite, and again, we had the space to make something that was really cool, and so we just, having stayed in a few nice hotels in our time, it was a case of what's the nicest bathroom that we ever had in a hotel, and why, and what were the features of it, and just having a bit of space, so that it didn't feel cluttered. So that was important. But then when you've got something that's quite large in terms of space and you can put a big window in it, lots of dark tiles, like bold dark tiles everywhere. So we've got black tiles on the floor, we've got these really cool dark marble going in for the island benches and dark joinery. So it's a bit of a characteristic of this whole house. There's a lot of really bold, dark colour choices in the kitchen, in the joinery. And we're able to get away with that because of how much light and space there is in the house.
Yeah,
so if it was a small house with small spaces, it would feel terrible. But being able to render it and walk around inside it, all of that darkness is fully supported by how much light's coming in. So it doesn't feel oppressive, it feels sort of luxurious. So,
yeah, I like it.
that
I
was the
like it.
concept.
Okay, cool. I think that was a great tour. What I would like to do is like transition into having a go at the Apple Vision Pro, so you can both actually experience it and like you can have a go at this. And then when we come back, then we'll just quickly do we'll do the last little bit of more talking about through the construction kind of constructibility challenges that you've had, because I really want to hear about the concrete that you're doing, and I understand and remember that inside the concrete you did a whole bunch of conduits.
Floor heating.
Floor heating, that's it. Yeah. I want to probably hear a bit about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Andrew, off you
Mate,
go.
you don't want to go?
No, I've already done a VR tour of some sort, but if you've never done this before...
No, I haven't.
Put that in your back pocket.
Yeah.
So now you're looking at the dollhouse, have a go. Like spin it, zoom it up, walk around.
It's amazing, you can just walk around it, yeah. It's just so real in front of your face, it's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, when you've never experienced past it before, it's pretty cool.
I mean, it also looks great when you get to watch someone just, walk around something in midair that everyone else can't see, exactly.
Yeah, we can see what you can see. It's definitely
okay,
there.
so it was, you said on the...
So tapping your index finger and, so just look at the model first.
Sorry, mate.
Press see the Enviz button, look at the Enviz and tap together to open up the app.
Okay.
Just while you're doing this, I can just see it's kind of come loose a bit.
Oh, sure.
Hold on, just so you have the full experience.
Thanks, mate.
There we go. Okay, once this loads. Okay, so you can see Pete's home. Just look at that tile, and then tap your fingers together again. Yeah? Just give it a sec. Okay, so before you go inside, it's important to have the full experience of the dollhouse. So look at the model, and with one finger, so one hand, tap your fingers together, and you can just spin the model. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and then once you feel comfortable with that, the next movement is to actually then do both your hands, and actually then you can make it zoom. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then it sort of moves it left and right as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to be like a bit of fun games, like if you remember the Iron Man movie, and he just blows it up like that.
Yeah.
You can make it really large if you want.
Yeah.
So, and then you can even pull it up higher so you can actually then look in the windows.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so then now when you're in your own time, then again, if you want to make the model small again, just so it's nice size, there you go.
It's a lot of fun when it's big though. Yeah,
There
that's
you
awesome.
go. And then just now look at your left palm and see the little walking guide. Push your finger through that button.
Oh, amazing. Jesus. Feels like I'm in just Keneal Place straight away.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. So again, now you're free to navigate anywhere you want in the model, and what you do is just simply looking at the ground and tapping your fingers together. And then remembering, if you want to be really precise where you're moving, tap and hold, and then when you let go, then that's where you'll go.
Yeah, that's amazing. So far everything looks like exactly what we're building, so that's a good start.
Yeah, there's no extra rooms.
No extra rooms,
I haven't forgotten any.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else that compares to this except for seeing the final product. Like, we've never been able to do any samples or do any mocking up or do any sketches or any sort of 3D renders that would even come close to seeing this as a full final product. I mean, it's just invaluable. Getting the immersive experience is just being able to see everything finished and furnished from one room to the other, how are the lights coming in.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's cool. And so this is your first time in VR as well?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I know, yeah. It's an old school builder, mate. It's not good.
The blades are about to install.
Yeah, incredible. Everything's just like perfectly to scale as well. I mean, it's just...
It's all 1-to-1 sized.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's amazing.
what's really cool is when you've got a space that's the same size as the house that you can walk around in. You don't have to teleport, you just walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Taking this to site, you'd line it up and then just
Yeah.
walk through the whole project.
You could actually, you could line it up so that, ideally the doors all line up.
Yeah.
No one shuts a door in front of you and you're about to walk through.
That's right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Amazing. Incredible.
Pete,
it's so
you
good.
have a go because I want you to try the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, cool. Have a crack.
Yeah, that's so good.
Just straight into the Zoom. There you go. I knew Pete was going to do that. So if you go into the more the atrium area, you'll be able to, or if you make the model even larger, then you'll have less of that effect where it cuts the edges off.
That's so cool. Like the resolution's great.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
The next feature we're going to do is incorporate that slicer feature, so you won't have to go through. You'll be able to just go and see top down. Each
Right,
level.
okay, yeah.
That's so cool. Oh, you've got the right marble there under the island
Yeah,
bench.
exactly, yeah.
Not on top
All the
though.
details are up to date, yeah, it's amazing.
And the overhang is bigger in the real model. Haven't seen it from ground level out the front yet.
How good's that? Because you were obviously using our first form of VR where we didn't have this dollhouse feature.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I've got for Andrew is whether in this here we're going to put a little planter box.
That's right.
And so the reason that I wanted to have that little planter box there is so that you could drop parcels and things on the other side of it, just there. I don't know if you can see where my finger
Yes,
is.
yeah.
Just there. So if that's like that high, then all of a sudden that kind of is a little bit more private.
Bit private
from
there,
the street.
yeah.
But yeah, this is cool. If I go around into the office. Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, now you're getting the hang of it. Because you don't have to have your hands up when you just want to navigate through your head.
That's amazing,
it's only
isn't
when you
it?
want to
Yeah.
move the model, but your head can actually then act like the camera where you want to go.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like you're a giant.
I know, right? The house is so small.
You have to look at the X and tap your fingers together. That's unfortunate. How's it going now? Cool.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Cool. So then now try the inside. So look at your hand and then go inside because we're keen to hear your thoughts on the quality difference between the headsets.
Yeah, it's so much better.
Yeah.
They've done a good job rendering that marble.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, looking at this, I reckon one of those lights that we just got from Cocoa Republic is going to be perfect. Yeah. Two of them is going to be too much.
Yeah, we could do one for sure.
'Cause that's only about, what's that? However far that is.
Yeah.
And those lights are
600.
50 centimetres high, so they're about that big.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be about right. And then this is going to be marble as well. So the idea is that's going to be like a big stone block. I don't think we'll want a second one there.
I think just one on that main face would be great.
Yep, I reckon so.
Yeah, it's amazing what Apple's done with the fidelity of the headset as well. Like, it looks real. Right?
It looks so real.
And
it's
like,
crazy.
When you see your hands as well, like, you can see your hands, and that just makes that other extra element to it.
This is cool. I do like this house. I reckon I'm going to enjoy living here.
Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular place. Yeah, that floor decision that you were talking about before, I think that was a great decision.
Just compromises the master bedroom. It means that we've got less seating area in the master bedroom, but my God, like what it does to this space is amazing. Yeah. How, do we know what the scale is on these light bulbs? Like, is that real?
Yeah, that'd be close. Yeah. Maybe a touch bigger than what they really are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just a fraction smaller than that. The wires are definitely thinner than those wires. And we're not going to have those bases in the ceiling, are we? It's just going to be wires disappearing between battens.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so that'll look better. Yeah, that's cool.
Just take a few steps forward because you've got plenty of room in front of you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good. It's centered there.
Yeah, cool. It's a good looking pizza oven. It's about the right size. It's a good barbecue. This guy is going to get a workout. Camera pool.
So you set on it being a pool table, or it might be?
Yeah, I think so. I was looking at one of those multi-purpose tables, but I think just a proper pool table that works like a pool table is going to be better.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, awesome, man. This is this is really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. So, first of all, I wanted to get your reactions of the Apple Vision Pro. What's our thoughts on that experience in terms of just understanding the property and seeing it firsthand?
Yeah, the resolution's so much better than the old headset. So yeah, that straight away is very cool. Yeah, but you know I've always been a big fan of the 3D walkthrough. So yeah, I think it's awesome.
And first time user of it?
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. First time. It's so rich, like I think if you look at some models that were around, a decade ago, it's probably just like black and white, and all the materials that you've got in the render are the exact same tone and the same color and the same everything that to the light bulbs and how big they are and all that kind of stuff, which just like it's just a full one-to-one scale. I mean, it's incredible, really. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy that like the technology that we have now for how much that's going to help construction, and
absolutely, yeah.
Just also from my point of view, it's like just really helping with that communication piece between the owner or someone that's never done construction before to someone that obviously lives and breathes it, to be able to get you on the same page. I think even though I know you're very sophisticated, Pete, and you can like put that together, like leveling that so you can communicate better, I think is very powerful.
Yeah, the analogy I would give is it's like the maturity of the internet, right? Like the internet was around for a long time before people were doing things like online banking. Back when it was a 56k dial-up modem and you needed to be a tech whiz to get a modem connected to the internet, no one's going to a website to do their shopping. But when the technology matures to a point that the experience is good and intuitive and rich and interactive, these days most people would say it's easier to shop online than it is to go into a store. Most people are doing all of their banking online. They're not going into a branch anymore. Whereas 20 years ago, it wasn't that. And it's not because the technology is fundamentally different. It's the same tech, but just better. Like bandwidth is so much faster. All of the code is similar. The HTML is still HTML, but now it's usable. And so the richer the model gets and the more intuitive the interface gets and the less, there's no nausea because the goggle is now representing proper motion. It's more realistic. Now it's usable. So now it's going to be used.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it's finally got to the point where it's actually usable and it's got that final form factor where it's easy to use, it's attainable, and all those barriers are gone. Yeah. And I agree, and the value is there as well. Cool. So we'll start to go into talking about some of the construction parts. And to prompt that, I want to just start with using one last kind of form factor to communicate this or to help with this discussion.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do here is the tabletop view.
Yep.
And so what I want to talk to you about is to understand a little bit more about the structure of the building, because I know it was done mainly in concrete.
Yes.
And so we've already talked about the concrete roof, which is obviously a major structure. But when I did a bit of a site visit, there was Peter was taking me through in terms of even the middle floor and then the bottom floor have floor heating built in.
Yes.
And I'd like to hear about the process of constructing that.
Yeah, definitely. So the whole building envelope is essentially a concrete shell. So all of the levels and the walls are all concrete. So it's probably more concrete in that house than most houses in Sydney or Australia for that matter, to be honest. And what's kind of important, I guess, is all of the layers that go inside of that concrete. So it could be from all of the heated pipes that run all of the underfloor heating to any of the electric conduits that need to be run, particularly in a form that can't be done later, it has to be done now. All of the reinforcing, there's hundreds of tons of reinforcing in there. So all of the planning that's needed to go into that for such a tricky shape, because it's on a triangle block as well, is hours and is weeks and weeks of planning. But it was all kind of needed in order to accommodate the slab being elevated, so it's out of the flood zone, which is really important, and then just to make a really robust shell, which is what Peter's brief was from day one. So. And then we've had to then layer over all of the architectural features that go on top of that. So the intricacies of the size of the windows or the set downs for the marble versus tiles or any of the little details that are needed, the rebates for the slabs, and the shape of it is not just like this sort of 2D thing that just runs through and it's just a rectangle. It's a rectangle with 100 different notches that step up and down, and so the planning is huge, right? And the communication is so important to get Peter's brief, which is this sort of big picture thing, and then from day one, and then you're going through all of the other things that need to go into that brief in order to finally getting that communication down to, for the form worker, this is how big the rebate needs to be for the window, which is 102 mil by 66. And so all of that communication, trying to simplify that, is the process that's required to build something quickly. Yeah. So it's just a lot of planning. There's a team of us in the office that are working on this job before the guys on site know anything about what they're doing, to make sure that when the guy turns up, he's really efficient at what he's doing, and then once he's finished, the following day or hours later, the next thing starts. So that's really important. Yeah.
And was it suspended concrete and tensioned at all, or is it all just reinforced?
So it's not post-tension slab, but it's a highly reinforced slab. The standard bars in the house might be sort of 10 or 12 mil, but we've got double that size or more in this house. So some of the spans are ginormous, and you know, if you sort of go into the courtyard space, there's a massive big sliding door, and this is, you know, a feature that probably people don't even really pick up because there's so many amazing other things going on, but that slab, which is the corner of the master bedroom, is actually not supported from below, but it's actually being hung from the roof above.
Oh, here.
That little corner there, so to make it all of that glass through there. And so there's a post that runs from the roof that actually then hangs down and picks up that corner of the slab, which is, you know, obviously intuitive because mostly things are ground up. But in order to make that work, that the engineer actually had to hang that floor from the roof, and so the roof is stronger in that particular part in order to take that floor.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it's just so you didn't have a post down here.
Exactly.
Like down the bottom here and wreck that kind of flow of that space.
Totally, yeah.
That's clever.
And that probably doesn't even come into the top 50 best engineering tricks of that whole house.
Okay,
but,
take me through
but it's really cool. You know, we've definitely spoken about the louvers, which is really interesting. And so because Pete's quite close to the ocean, and there's a natural creek that runs behind, if that creek was to flood, there's been a lot of studies behind where the water would go. Okay. And so there is a man-made channel that runs underneath the house that allows the water to pass through in the event of a flood. And so the hydrologist and the engineers and everyone had to sort of come up with a solution of how the water would pass underneath the house in the event that the flood rise actually comes up and doesn't allow it to, one, come in, but also doesn't sort of block it from then going out to the ocean, which is eventually what it needs to do. So yeah.
Any other engineering things?
Yeah, so definitely, we've spoke about the skylight. We've got the louver blades in there. There's a couple of little cool other metal features as well. So on the front elevation of the house, there's this sort of like, this is like overall picture frame with some individual vertical blades, and then housed inside of those is some Venetians. So there's a lot of work being gone into the cables that are needed to run those motorised Venetians, and then...
Oh, they're motorised as well, yeah.
Yeah,
okay, wow.
Yeah. So Pete was mentioning before about the home automation. So there is, you know, there's thousands of cables that are inside the house. We can definitely share some photos of it that go all back to one central control room.
Yeah.
And so that control room has, you know, power, data cables that run essentially to every light fitting or some appliances. And what that does is all underfloor heating, the air conditioning, that allows for Pete to sit anywhere in the world and say, yeah, we're going to turn the house down because it's a bit hot, or we're going to put the underfloor heating in the master bedroom because I've just got back from the airport and it's in the middle of winter and I'm going to have a shower. And so all of those cables need to go back to the right spot, and from day one there's got to be, you know, a dedicated room designed, because that obviously houses a lot of kit, just like a, you know, almost like a comms room in a commercial building.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where all the planning comes from day one. Like, it's important to get involved, and the architects do such a good job of making the building looks fantastic and choosing all the right finishes. There's a whole bunch of services and engineering that goes in behind the scenes that has to happen at the same time. So a lot of communication goes in to all of those stakeholders in order to get everything fitting in the building like it needs to be. Yeah.
I've being in the IT industry, I've been in a few data centers in my time, and the cable runs back to the comms room in this house is some of the best cabling I've ever seen.
It's pretty good. It's pretty great.
Level. The colour coding, the way it's all been, you know, cable tied together and neatly spliced and just put together into different cable runs, and the server cabinet that's in there and all of the wall cabinets, it's just next level.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And so you would have had to put that all through, and then with also the internal, the slab heating and stuff, that would have been a nightmare, like you said, of pre-planning and
lots of planning, absolutely. And that sort of goes back to that real initial planning stage at day one, where it's like, okay, Pete, the architect's designing the building, but you know, how do you want it to function? Pete wanted to have underfloor heating everywhere, and there's hot water pipes that run through all of the slabs in the whole house, in order to basically have this nice warm floor that's like the hydronic heating's a nice feeling underfoot. And so he's got that in the house, and it's great because it keeps the whole concrete structure warm. It's just a beautiful way to live, really. And so we had to put that into the slab, so the engineer's got to make the slab a little bit thicker. And so if the engineer didn't know about that from day one, then he's designing something that's not going to work, and then he's got to do rework. So having all the information through the planning stages up front is just so important.
Yeah, climate to me is one of the most important features of what makes a house comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be in different spaces and they can feel terrible because the climate's not right. The air's too dry, it's too humid, it's too cold, it's too hot. And so I was thinking, all right, so what's the perfect environment? And it's a nice warm floor to walk on and nice cool air to breathe, with the right amount of moisture and the humidity and all of those things. And so, you know, I love the concept of, you know, as Andrew said, there's hundreds of tons of concrete. That's a lot of thermal mass. Like it'll take a week or longer to heat the house up and to cool it down. So let's take advantage of that, run super energy efficient hydronic heating through the slab to get the concrete of the house to the temperature that we want 24/7 throughout winter, and then use the air conditioning to fine tune as the sun comes in and warms the house up. You might want to just bring the temperature down a bit. So even in the middle of winter, we're still going to probably run the air conditioning a little bit just to bring the top temperature down.
Yeah.
And then the thermal mass of the house will keep it warm all through the night. So thinking about all of that and how that relates to the western sun and the angle of the sun and all of those things was part of that. You know, so I sat down with the Basics guy and went through all of those things. We got 30 kilowatts of solar on the roof, so that's a huge amount of solar energy. But we're going to be using it intelligently to drive all the different areas of the building to make sure that the climate is really cool inside the house.
Do you have batteries as well?
Yeah, we're putting 3 Tesla batteries.
3 Tesla batteries.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, okay, we'll start wrapping it up now.
Yeah.
So yeah, just run me through some of the major challenges that you've had. Like what's something that springs to mind that like is something that you had to all come together and problem solve, or had to actually make some sacrifices or some changes in the design? Some major challenges of the project.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's every day in building. Yeah, major challenges, that's fine. Yeah. Look, I think overall, if we're sort of looking at time, cost and quality, like we haven't really had too many big upsets really. You know, we're sort of almost about to finish. That's really close to the completion date. The same with the budget as well. So I think what's been so good about Pete's involvement is the fact that he's been so across the details that we haven't had to redo anything, right? And I think the most important part of building something quickly is understanding what the client wants and then making sure that it's considered with all the other factors within the project, and then being able to give it to the guy on site who's the guy that's really doing the work, that's actually going to deliver it. Doing that process efficiently is so important. And there's heaps of examples. Like you take something extreme like the Empire State Building. That was just a bit over a year to build. And it's like, how many stories is the Empire State Building? I think it's like 45 stories or something like that. So it took a year to build, and it's like, why houses in Sydney taking like 2 to 5 years to build when you can build the Empire State Building in a year? Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? So mostly the Empire State Building is built quickly because of repetition. You're building the same thing, and you don't get that in houses, but the key takeaway of that is that people know what they're doing when they turn up to site, and they're doing it efficiently, so they're doing it in the best way possible. And that is just a good little take home for repetition, because that's what we're just trying to do with the guys on site every day, making sure that they're doing it once, they're doing it efficiently, so that you can build it, as fast as possible.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
There've been a number of things about the house that I've cared a lot about that have probably cost money to fix. I don't accept cost in time, and so generally my answer is no, I want it done this way how do we get it done this way? And an example of that, we had a big concrete beam running across in front of the kitchen, in front of the dining table. And it's still in the model. That beam got thicker and thicker, and it was starting to block the view.
The one here?
No, the one that's facing west, the western side.
On that same plane though.
Yeah, same plane, but that western beam. And
behind the louvers?
Yeah. And so I just Googled around and I found a picture of a giant window that was as big as the windows that we had that didn't have a beam. And I said, well, they can do it, so can we.
Yeah.
Get rid of the beam.
If they can do it.
So there have been some things like that beam that now doesn't exist in the real house that have had consequences elsewhere and have been a challenge. But then there are other things where, I was walking around the house after work one day and Pete, the builder, was there on site trying to figure out how to put little downlights in the stair treads and where would the downlights go and how much would they actually, what was the shape of the pool of light that would be thrown by the downlight if it had have gone where we wanted it. And because the stairs are cantilevered a little bit, the light would be kind of shining mostly into a void and they wouldn't actually have an effect. And so Pete was trying to figure out how to angle the lights and whether there was a light that we could get that would sort of shine its light down onto the tread below so it would look differently. And we were just both staring at it for a bit. And we both kind of at the same time said, what if we just put the lights in the concrete? Pete was like, well, yeah, that would work. All right, let's just offset all the lights. So now all the lights are offset on the concrete side of the stairs, not on the cantilevered side. So you'll see this runway of lights going up, this beautiful sculptural concrete, which is going to look so much better.
That's great.
And that probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't just been wandering around the site at night. So, there've been a few things like that where I've just been wandering, can we just do it here instead of there? And, trying to do that in real time in a way that doesn't impact the schedule has been really helpful.
No, that's great. That's great. I really like it. Okay, and then, so now if you were able to talk to your younger self before you both started this project, is there any advice or things that you'd give that younger Peter or Andrew? Lessons learned?
Yeah, it's funny. I think, to be honest, this is the first time we've ever used VR on a job, for sure. And I think right at the start, we probably didn't appreciate how valuable it was. Not all of the subbies have even seen this because everyone just works on 2D. They've always worked on 2D, sorry. And it was interesting because I was like, I wonder how long we've been building off 2D for. And then I quickly Googled it and it's like, we've been doing it for 4,500 years. And I was like, this is the change for 4,500 years of people building off 2D. And we're actually going to start doing it differently now, which I thought was really cool. And 2D is what I've done all of my life. And so I think when it first came up, we looked at it and Pete showed me, I was like, oh, that's amazing. But definitely if we were to do it again, we would probably get the guys on site to be more involved in the VR so that they could actually see a little bit more about how the details are coming together and just the overall concept. But it's such a new, some of the guys we work with don't even use emails, right? Because they're just, their strength is to be swinging a hammer and that's okay. But to get them across it and integrate it into the sites, I think it's going to be really valuable so that, just simply because it's such a good tool.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I actually hadn't heard that stuff. That's a really good way of framing it in terms of that long period of learnings and just processes of 4,000 years. Yeah, there's a transition period that comes with that. But
absolutely,
cool to see where we're going to go from there.
I know. My guess was 300 years, and I was a little bit off. But it's amazing. Yeah. 4,500 years is such a long time.
Okay, cool. Look forward to working with you on your next project.
Yeah, definitely, mate. We've got a couple in mind.
Enviz straight away. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, for me, the big change next time would be to get all of the finishes rendered accurately as early as possible, and all of those decisions which are typically made later on in the build because you have to make that decision later after the project has started and it's inefficient to do it here, That's wrong. Make all those decisions at the start. Choose your washing machine, your dishwasher, choose your appliances, choose your floorboards and your tiles and all that sort of stuff. That can all be done while you're waiting for bloody council to get the DA sorted, right? There's so much slack time in a project at the start while you're waiting for council. All that time can be used to make the model. And yeah, council might come back and say you can't have that bedroom, or you can't do this, you can't do that. It's pretty easy to change that stuff. It doesn't impact your tile choice. It doesn't impact what sort of dishwasher you're going to put in there. It doesn't impact what sort of push button flush you're going to have on your toilet, whether you're going to have a shower niche or you're going to have a shelf or you're going to have nothing. Like, all of those decisions can be made while you're waiting for the DA. And you can do all of that in here, and you can be walking around your end product doing all of that stuff right from the start. And I think that's the big change for me in doing a custom build like this. And if I was going to do the process again, I'd be choosing tiles before the DA was approved.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, you flip it around, because we definitely started with you on just the architectural model, but then we did this more really high-end rendered version just at the end. But yeah, that's interesting. You bring it forward.
I bring it all forward. And the other thing that's evolved in this process is the speed with which you can convert a 2D plan into a 3D model. Like, the tech has gotten better, so now it's possible to rapidly take an architectural diagram, rapidly render it. Like, the cost and the time to do that has come right down as well. So it was a barrier before, because it was a big thing to go, okay, when are we going to pull the trigger to get this modelled? You know, what version of architecturals are we going to use to build a model? Now it's like, it doesn't matter, just do them all. Oh, you got another one? Do it again. Another one? Do it again. And just load in all of the materials that we've already got. Like, that's a game changer.
Agreed. Oh, I'll leave it there, but thank you so much for both your time.
Yeah,
it was
thanks,
really
mate.
great
Nice
to
meet you.
hear about this project and hear the behind the scenes, and it's amazing what you've designed and come together, and amazing what you've brought to life, Andrew. So I really look forward to seeing it firsthand once it's finished, and hopefully enjoying a pizza with you and your pizza oven.
Friday nights.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Mike.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys. That was awesome.